Hello dear listener, join me as I traverse 100 years of horror cinema, one flick at a time. As the torch was passed from Carl Laemmle Sr. to Jr. in the late 20s, and Universal outgrew its image of the silent age, so too Lon Chaney Jr. developed a career his own, separate from his famous father, the man of 1,000 faces. The journey reached its zenith in 1941's The Wolfman. The Laemmle era was over. Universal was sold off but still functioning with part ownership by none other than British filmmaker J. Arthur Rank. Meanwhile, the new Universal was well into its second horror cycle, which, in hindsight, peaked with this film. Universal knew that Chaney's name would draw crowds. His father, having died only a decade earlier, was one of the biggest names in Hollywood. However, until this picture, they didn't quite know what to do with the as-yet rising sun. After The Wolfman, Chaney was inexorably linked to horror. Lon Chaney Jr. took on his most iconic role, and though he never matched the heights of his father, he at least portrayed two faces. He plays Lawrence Talbot, freshly returned from the United States to meet his father, played by none other than the Invisible Man himself, and soon to play a colour version of the Phantom, Claude Rains. While he would take Lon Chaney's place as the Phantom 2 years hence in a colour remake, here he plays Junior's father. While the two don't match genetically, their relationship is portrayed authentically and is the true heart of this tragic picture. The plot, however, is driven by Chaney's desire for a woman he spies by accident in the local village. While Gwen, played by horror legend Evelyn Ankers, is already engaged, the two begin a flirtatious relationship. This all becomes too much when Chaney is bitten by a werewolf one night, played by none other than Dracula himself, Bela Lugosi. The rest of the film is Chaney's sympathetic yet tragic hero, trying desperately to understand what has happened to him. Lugosi's gypsy mother, played spectacularly by Maria Ouspenskaya, offers some guidance, but Chaney knows he will kill those he cares about when next the full moon rises. The sets are some of the best ever constructed for a horror picture. Direction is more direct and literal compared to the ethereal or symbolic of James Whale's and Todd Browning's work in the previous decade. This could be a problem, but the direction by George Waggner is top-notch and makes a strong point of difference in this more Hollywood-looking film. This seemed inevitable in the post-Gone with the Wind era, 1939. The film could have gone wrong. Pearl Harbor was attacked, World War II had begun, from an American point of view, and the studio got nervous. Would audiences want these kinds of horror films in an age of genuine horror? A scene of a leg amputation was excised, but otherwise the film remained untouched. They needn't have worried. The Wolfman was a massive hit for Universal and spawned various sequels, some of which were actually decent. However, the heights of this horror cycle were short-lived, and The Wolfman would get no standalone sequels, forever saddled with the baggage of other Universal monsters, such as the meet-up with Frankenstein's monster the following year. While Curt Siodmak's career arguably never hit these highs again either, the writing here is sharp and a cut above horror films of the time. His quote, "Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night," etc., is so authentic it was assumed to be taken from actual folklore. This too is where the film differentiates itself. Films of the 30s began in folklore, but shifted away towards what would become the standard, science and real-world driven. The Wolfman sticks to the old paths, and while a little hammy today, it was the right call to set the film apart from others at the time. This writing is also elevated by the performances, which could easily have fallen down with a poor supporting cast. With the likes of Lugosi, Ouspenskaya, and Ralph Bellamy as the well-meaning captain, the film is in safe hands. The Wolfman is truly one of the all-time classics. This is partly in thanks to the stellar cast, who have a relatable sensibility that keeps the audience grounded in the more fantastic elements. Rames is a powerful presence on any stage, but Chaney holds his own. His wide-eyed sincerity and his ferocious, hair-covered snarls and powerful physical performance drive the tension and drama of the film. The transformations were stunning in their day, although Werewolf of London of 1935 had already shown how such a thing could be done. While not exactly groundbreaking today, they are effective enough. Curiously, there are no direct shots of the full moon, but these are hardly needed to drive the point home about its dangers. The tragic ending is full of tension and well executed by the director Waggner. You can't keep a good werewolf or franchise down. Chaney and his adopted gypsy mother return in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, when he makes the role truly iconic in a more violent and exciting follow-up. Chaney's werewolf would have many outings, but never again would he be the singular focus of a film. The film marks the beginning and end of Chaney's peak as a star and the popularity of his monster, although thankfully for both and for their fans, the decline would be slow and many more installments would appear. The picture is a true standout of the genre, one of the best from Universal and certainly the best of the non-Laemmle era. RKO would take over the mantle as the studio creating powerful horror films in the 1940s, but it was this Universal film that set the stage for the rest of the decade. It is the most relatable and powerful of the iconic monster films and is perhaps the best to recommend to newbies to the genre. If you don't like this masterpiece, you'll likely not like any. Enjoy.